always gonna grin. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. Never gonna lose, never gonna win. Long as you're happy, you're always gonna grin. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. We are live. I've got Simon in the house. How you doing, sir?
Hello. All right.
Hopefully people are going to see this. I don't know what's going on with LinkedIn or StreamYard, but whenever I set this up, the timing's just back to front. I don't know whether it's because we've got the BST changing or anything. Anyway, we're here. Maybe not as advertised, but we're still here, and we're going to be talking to Simon. Simon, you've been on before, but for those people who haven't a clue who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Well, very briefly, I was born in 1974, so that makes me 49 just over a half now, 49 and 7 months or so.
Are we doing anything celebratory for next year?
Well, that's all up in the air at the moment, Ashley. I'm not one for celebrating birthdays and big birthdays.
But 50 is a bit of a milestone.
Yeah, but I've got a lot of things going on in my life at the moment. So how that pans out over the next 6 to 12 months, we will see. Didn't do particularly well at school, bit of dyslexia, various different things like that. Fell into the world of accountancy in the early 90s, couldn't get a job basically, and that was the first job I got offered. Discovered that I was reasonably good at that. Bought an accountancy practice in 2002. Built that practice up, so there's now 20 some odd people work there. Clock in, we'll put it like that, and turnover best part of £1.5 million. And in the late 2000s, early 2000 teens, I extracted myself out of that practice and then got bored because I got nothing to do. Created a consultancy company called Pull Your Socks Up Simon, which was to help business owners. And very quickly, I discovered that the majority of the people that were coming along to those events were accountants. So it was about 50-50 split. And then in 2014, my daughter came along, and I thought I'd better take this a little bit more seriously. What would I advise my customers to do if I was them? And that was to niche. And ultimately, in 2016, Pull Your Socks Up Simon morphed into the Accountants Mastermind and became Accountants exclusively. So now I spend my time running the Accountants Mastermind community, which is based predominantly around running mastermind groups and training events.
No, absolutely fantastic. Love a good mastermind. John, come to my rescue, please. I don't know if you know John Asperian, but this guy is a relentlessly helpful LinkedIn nerd, and he is on my show next week. And I'm just going to look at that I've done for you, John. So that's next week, but that's programmed for 1:30, John, and I set it up as 12:30, so we need to fix that. So thank you for coming in and reminding us, because there's something afoot, and I thought it was me, but it's not me. It's something afoot. Masterminds, Simon. We hear this bandied around. I'm in this mastermind. I'm in that mastermind. For the uninitiated, what is a mastermind?
So for masterminding, for me, is the bringing together of like-minded individuals to help challenge other individuals to become better. So mastermind, you're right, it gets bandied about a lot. But for me, the majority of people that talk about masterminds, what is just a posh name for training or a posh name for a conference or a get-together. The crux of a masterminding session for me is that you analyze the problem. So people will come and they'll say, so you say, what's the problem? I say, oh, well, I'm not getting any leads, or I've got a team member that's not working very well, or there'll be lots of generic problems. And what happens in the majority of masterminds or trainings, brainstorming events, get-togethers, whatever you want to call it, people go, oh, well, I can help you solve that problem. Ego comes out and they say, you need to do this, you need to do that. And basically you go around a room and you get lots of good ideas that relate to the problem as presented. Now, invariably, that problem isn't the real problem. It's a surface level problem. It's the problem that the individual is comfortable discussing with the group.
Yep.
So in true mastermind, what you should do is then analyze that problem and take it to what's called the problem as understood. So you ask clarifying questions around the problem, and ultimately it morphs into a different problem, not always completely different, but lots of times it does go into a completely different problem. Or the individual, as they're vocalizing it, they have a ting. It's like, oh, I didn't think that, or I didn't realize that. And then they've got the answer themselves, and then they can go off and implement a solution that is right for the real problem rather than the problem that their ego has presented. And I have this thing, it comes from a chap called Keith Cunningham. And Keith said, sticking wings on a bike won't make it fly. So when you go, the majority of time, when you go to trainings or masterminds, you go along on your bike and say, right, okay, who's got the wings? You stick the wings on and then you go away and you pedal like crazy and it never takes off. For us, it's about the bike. It's not about what to stick on it. It's about understanding why the bike isn't going as fast as what you want it to go and then working on that bike. Very occasionally, you chuck the bike away and you buy a new bike or you get a new bike, but nearly always it's pump the tires up, grease the chain, change the wheels, blah, 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 blah. There's 101 metaphors that I could go into.
Yeah.
For me, the true mastermind or true masterminding aspect is getting to the root of the problem and doing something about that rather than just dealing with the service level stuff.
Yeah. Okay. And so your mastermind group is they're all accountants. They're all in practice. They're all trying to run a practice, and you instigate that and run that and help everybody.
Yeah, so the way it works, the full mastermind group, we come together the night before, we have a meal, we do some accountability stuff, some action planning, various things, have a glass of wine, moan about the world.
Just the one glass of wine?
Well, yeah, perhaps 1.5 every now and again.
Okay.
And then following morning, we get up, we do some problem analysis, so critical problem analysis, which is getting to the root of the problem. We then have an outside guest speaker come in, a proper professional speaker that gets paid and everything. It's not my mate from the pub that talks about this, that, and all the rest of it. We have a proper speaker come in, and then in the afternoon, we do the hot seat sessions, which is the true masterminding aspect of it for me. Set some actions, they get recorded in Coach Accountable, and then the process flips every 2 months or so.
No, I love that. I love it. So how often do you guys meet up?
So we've got 3 groups at the moment, and they meet every 8 weeks, roughly. It gets a bit bigger over the summer holidays because we don't meet in July and August, but every 2 months. So it's an 8-week cycle, and which we have found, if you go quarterly, has been a bit too long in the past, but and a monthly is a bit too quick. But every 8 weeks or so is ideal for us.
Oh, perfect. And can anyone join?
Yes. However,
there's a but coming, Simon.
There is very much a but coming. So, as long as they're within the accountant, they are an accountant practice or a bookkeeping practice in the UK. Generally speaking, they have 3 or more employees, and they've been established 3 or more years because they need a certain level. And the reason why I have the but, Ashley, is because of that. It's about the mindset. So we have 3 levels: confirmation, information, and transformation. Now, if you're coming along to a mastermind meeting for confirmation that you're brilliant and you know everything already, then it's all ego, and they sit there and they say, well, you need to do this, and if I was you, you need to blah, 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 blah. Yeah, very quickly they get found out, and they don't like us because we challenge that confirmation, blah, 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 blah. So confirmation, we don't want. Information, they are people that are coming along, they're looking for information to improve their practices and go with it, and they work with it, they set actions, etc., etc. More than happy with those type of people. But the real ones we want are the transformations. So they're the people that are coming along, they're fed up with this, they're fed up with that, blah, 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 blah. They're wholeheartedly committed to transforming their practice into what it is that they want. Now, sometimes they come along from a transformation point of view, they put stuff into place, they then get the practice that they want, and then they fall back, if you like, into the information category because they're tinkering around the edges rather than transforming stuff. But if they ever get back into the confirmation, which has happened in a couple of occasions, if they ever get back into the confirmation mindset, then it's thank you very much, goodbye, we've had our time together.
No, brilliant. I love that. And so you've got a group of accountants that are all focused and wanting the same thing, and so you don't want somebody that's just started their business and all they're going to do is just suck all the ideas out of it, and they're not able to give anything back.
Well, no, I'll wholeheartedly challenge you on that, actually, because it's not about it's not about what you can give necessarily.
Okay.
It's about the quality of the questions that you ask.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you're turning up wanting to give or take information, mentally for me, that's potentially an ego situation. But when people come along, if they're inquisitive and curious, it's about the quality of the questions they ask the individuals in the room and ask themselves. Now, you don't even have to be an accountancy practice owner to ask great questions. Sometimes if I'm struggling with a problem, I can go and ask Ben and Amy, my son and daughter, 8 and 10, and say, Daddy's got this problem, how would you solve it? And they'll say something and I'll think, well, never thought. But because there's a naivety that comes along with that, and because of that naivety, it's like, oh, and it's like, like when you're talking to people, and you do it when you're coaching Ashley and all the train, it's like that twinkle in their eye, and it's like, oh, there we go. That's the magic, and it's that split second, and you've helped them think about it differently, and that's exactly what it's like. So it don't matter whether you run 60 people in your firm or no people in your firm. If you come with an open mind and an open heart and the ability to ask great questions, and normally a great question, you can feel it intuitively. So it's like, the one sometimes where you're going to ask a question and go, oh, I can't ask that because it might upset them, or it might not be the right question, or I might sound stupid. If you ask that question, then it's coming, and as long as it's coming from a place of love, then it very often, as I say, it gets that spark, that twinkle in their eye.
No, that's fantastic. I love that. So you don't have a family, you've got a mastermind.
That's right, at home. Yeah. Yeah. The kids and the cat teach me stuff every single day.
Do you know? Kids do teach us stuff. I've got my little grandson living with us at the moment. Or obviously the whole family. If you've been watching what I've been doing on LinkedIn, I'm painting houses and everything. But he's 3, and I'm learning things from him. And the best thing I'm learning from him is happiness.
Yeah.
He's just always happy. That is the default of a human being. Yeah. And the times he's not happy is he can't get a toy to work. He's hungry. He's tired. Yeah, that's it. That is it. It's just brilliant.
Yeah, living in the moment ultimately is what it boils down to me. So if you're in this moment here and now, then there is nothing to be unhappy about, because everything that causes unhappiness or friction is outside of this moment, and we get all philosophical about it and all the rest of it. I know, but
I'd love to go down that avenue, but we've got so many other things to talk about. So what makes a good mastermind, Simon?
That I'll go back. So vulnerability and the ability to ask those questions and be receptive to answering those questions. So if you're sat in the hot seat and somebody asks you a question and your instant response is no, that's not right, the ability to go, okay, is it right? Check in with myself and then vocalize. So vulnerability, trust, and the ability for both sides of the equation, the person asking the question, the person answering the question, their confidence in order to trust is a big word.
And I like what you say, vulnerability, because it's no good going to a mastermind and I'm not telling you that. Oh, I can't tell you this.
It's rubbish. I mean, we have people that literally in one group, they've got accountancy practices, and you can throw a stone from one practice and break the window in the other practice. And they have completely open conversations with each other about what they're doing and what they're not doing, etc., on the basis that the universe will provide for all of us. There's enough work out there. There's an abundance of it's like
absolutely.
Nobody's gonna. It's like you've got that £1,000 client. Well, now I'm gonna not have cheese on my toast tomorrow morning type scenario. It's absolute rubbish. So, and I've been like that for donkey's years. The more I can give away, the more we can share as within the community, the better we have to be, because everybody's then standing on each other's shoulders and building up. So, the vulnerability and the opportunity to share and trust each other is way more important than the point scoring.
Yeah. And is it just masterminds that you do? You don't do any events or anything?
We have and I will call it the pipeline, Ashley. So I don't expect people. Some of these things when I'm talking to them, accountants will go, "Cool, blimey, Simon, that's a bit scary," and there's an investment that comes along with that as well. So there is a pipeline that people tend to go through, which involves coming along to events. And we run 4 events a year. Next one's on the 12th of December in Kettering Park Hotel, and is called Breakthrough Your Glass Ceiling. And generally speaking, people come along to that event. They see me, they see the way the group works, etc., or the groups work. And then off the back of that, when they're ready, they invited to come along for a test drive, and then they test the group and go on from there.
And so can anyone come to this break through your glass ceiling?
Any accountant at all. If they're a member of the
okay.
community, if they're a member of the community or a member of the bands community, they can come along for free. If they're an accountant in practice, then they can come along. It's next to nothing. It basically covers the hotel costs, and they can come to the dinner, etc. At the next event, we have actually, funnily enough, we've got a non-accountant coming, a chap called Sanjay Shah. And Sanjay's coming along because he was my personal coach. Well, he still is my personal coach, but I first met Sanjay back in 2006, 2007. And he was an integral part of my personal development, which is what the event is all about on the 12th of December.
And what sort of things can we learn if we come to this? So
what I'm sharing, Ashley, is I'm sharing the top bits of my personal development journey from the early 2000s, and I have to be a bit careful because it feels a bit ego aspect of it that I've turned into this superhuman Zen-like person that never has a problem in the world. Which is, if you'd have been here at Apple State this morning, you'd have seen that there was stuff going off, or chairs going down, and stuff going off. So I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but back in the early 2000s, I was even more overweight than what I am now, drinking bottles of wine, smoking, not exercising, etc. And I've gone on a journey that involved NLP, Tony Robbins, hypnosis, emotional intelligence with Sanjay, cognitive behavior therapy, loads of different things, all of which. So I fundamentally, if there's a problem, I'm the problem. Generally speaking, 99 times out of 100, I am the problem. And all of those different things that I've learned, the best bits I will be sharing. So it's been a fascinating. I'm already planning the content. I've got it mapped out, but I'm now filling the holes. And because of that, I'm going through books that I read like 15, 20 years ago. And it's like, oh, I forgot about submodalities, for example. It's like, I understand modalities, but I'd forgotten that by changing the submodalities, is an NLP term around different facets of vision and auditory and whatnot. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can play with that again, because like I've rediscovered it for the first time. So it's all those sorts of stuff, language patterns, how we talk to ourselves, how we talk to customers, how we talk to team, soft words that we use like might, should, could, etc. Possibly, blah, 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 blah. No, you're either going to do it or you're not going to do it type scenario. So there's best part of 6 hours. There's a dinner the night before, and it's Christmas, so there'll be a glass of sherry and that sort of thing, no doubt, nice. and a cracker. And then on the day, there's 6 hours of me sharing, as I say, the most important bits that I've learned over the years.
Oh, fantastic! That sounds absolutely amazing. You need to drop in the details so that we can come along and book it. So, what would you say then to somebody watching this? Thinking about personal development, where's the first place to start? Because you mentioned books, you've mentioned all the different things that you've done, your NLP and things like that, Tony Robbins, etc. What would be the first? Because there's people out there that don't get personal development, and they do continual professional development, and so they check on the latest tax laws and stuff like that. But personal development, where would one start, Simon?
Well, there's lots of things, and it depends what your definition of personal development is. But what specifically part of your person you would like to develop. But if I was going to start sort of broad brush, start anywhere, it would be around your emotions and being aware and conscious of your emotional state. So very briefly, your thoughts create your emotions create your actions create your results, and long term the results that you get change your thinking, which change your emotions. Now, you can't control your thinking. People say, oh, I think I'm positively thinking, blah 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 blah, which is rubbish, because normally what happens is when you have a positive thought, your brain goes, Was that really a positive thought? Was it positive enough? So for every positive thought, you have this little negative thought and blah, 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 blah. So it's just a minefield of rubbish. However, your emotions, they pass through you, and generally speaking, they take longer. So you've got longer to recognize, oh, how am I feeling right now? Well, I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling fearful, or courageous, or I'm in pride. And as soon as you become conscious of it, you can then ask, is this my most useful emotional state? So sometimes people say fear, and they feel it anyway and do it anyway. Sometimes fear is a useful emotion. If you've got a tiger that's about to eat you, you want to be scared of the tiger. So all emotional states are useful. It's only a question as to whether they're useful in this moment. Okay. So as soon as you become aware of that, you can then decide or choose, and there'll be a lot of this on the day, you can choose to change your emotional state into a more useful emotional state. And there's a couple of questions that we can use in order to do that. And then once you're in that more useful emotional state, the action that you take will be far more useful than the one that you would take from fear or anger or grief or guilt or seeking somebody's approval or whatever. So if I was going to take a shortcut, and I went on a journey to get to that, Ashley, if I was going to take a shortcut, it would be to do something around emotional intelligence and learning to become more aware around that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And any books to recommend on that?
Well, there's a couple. There's the subtle art of not giving a FUCK, which is a really interesting book. The film is on Netflix. I thought the film was more provocative for me than what the book was, but I'd done a lot of work up until that point. And then there's some more sort of deeper stuff. The name escapes me. The name escapes me at the moment. There's one by Eckhart Tolle. Anything around, anything that he's done. As I say, they're the two that sort of instantly spring to mind. And then there's a really interesting Atomic Habits. Depending on how you're reading Atomic Habits, there's a lot of emotional, a lot of provocative stuff around that. And then Sanjay Shah, sanjayshah.tv is his website. There's some videos and courses and whatnot on there. And Sanjay runs some one-day events and blah, 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 which I would wholeheartedly recommend that people go to.
We can have a chat with him if we come to your glass ceiling.
You can, very much so, yeah, if you dare.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. So you read a lot of books. Do you listen to podcasts and audiobooks?
I do. I listen to audiobooks, less so podcasts. My two favorite podcasts are Diary of a CEO and High Performance Podcasts. They're the two that I mainly listen to. And then I've got some health stuff and whatnot that are Dr. whatever he's called, and one or two others, marketing ones. Alex Hormozi, a massive fan of Alex at the moment. Audiobooks, what I tend to do with books is I'll listen to them going backwards and forwards to wherever I'm going in the car. And if the book is it grabs me enough, then I'll go and buy the book and I'll read it. Because when I'm reading it, I can
scribble on it.
Make my notes. If I'm in the car and I'm driving, what I tend to do, and this is another little tip that people can take away, is if I'm listening to a book, if they say something, I'll pause the book and then I'll ask Siri to send me an email. So, hey Siri, send Simon Chaplin an email, subject line, put the subject line, and then when I get there, I can then put it into Evernote and all the other stuff that I do in order to make sure I capture it. But obviously, for me, that's much more difficult because I've got to be conscious of telling Siri. And you know when you're driving a car, you're listening to it, but you're looking at the birds and the world, and before you know it, it's like, oh, I've missed a chapter. And it's not quite as for me, not quite as productive as actually reading it, but obviously it is productive because I'm doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a 7-hour drive back from Manchester, so definitely listened to a couple of books there, and that's the thing. What would be your the book you recommend the most, Simon?
Out of all of the books that I ever read, that is a question.
Sorry,
that is a question. There are so many. If I go right back to the beginning,
you can have 5 then.
Okay, so your top
5, because it's sort of like, it's like saying what's your favorite film. Well, if you want something a bit actiony, it'll be this one. If it's something with a gritty story, it's that one.
So Drive by Dan Pink.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's fantastic book about employee motivation. A Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, I listened to that, and I still don't know how many times I've listened to it. So it's like one of them that you can sort of delve into and delve out of, and every day you think, God, dear, how stupid am I being? It's that obvious. Yeah, Drive, Road Less Stupid, Make It Stick, Chip and Dan Heath. And they also did the whatchamacallit one about change, how to change when change is hard.
That was a good one. That was about the elephant.
That's it. That's right. Yeah,
I was talking to someone about that this morning, and I couldn't think of the title. I'm sure I've got it down here somewhere.
Yeah, I will have somewhere. E-Myth was again a fundamental book on the way through.
Michael Gerber.
5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni, or anything by Patrick Lencioni, but 5 Dysfunctions of a Team is was a massive one, a big influence. Obviously, we're not saying anymore.
Banish the bottleneck. You got to do so. People listening to the podcast aren't going to see that. So banish the bottleneck.
Okay,
what's all that about, Simon?
That was Banish the Bottleneck, which is my book. And it only took 12 years to write and publish.
Did you have a bit of a bottleneck writing it?
I did, yes, and Crisis of Confidence and all sorts. There was I share this a lot. That book was one of the most difficult things that I have ever done. More difficult than marathons and cycling, Land's End at John O'Groats and all that, because there was no finish line. So every time I thought it was finished, there was an improvement, or something. It's still not finished now. I can still improve the book. But yeah, it's about how I extracted myself out of the accountancy practice, basically. So it goes through setting goals and delegation, lots on delegation and that sort of stuff. So yeah, that was my book. So it's on Amazon, #1 bestseller, blah, 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 blah.
Well done.
And then the other one that I carry around with me at the moment is Brave New Work. I can't remember the author, but again, it's very provocative about how the world of work is changing with millennials and blah, 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 working from home. Again, it's kind of built on Drive by Dan Pink, which I love. So I could go on talking about books all day.
No, it's brilliant because what we're doing is we're giving somebody, we're giving people I can go and do this, go and do that. I've written it all down. There's a few books here that I haven't read, so thank you very much for that. We could natter all day. We could absolutely natter all day. I love the idea of your event. I'm not sure what I'm doing in December. But it sounds absolutely fascinating, and I'm sure we'd learn an awful lot. Thank you for being a guest. Is there any question that I haven't asked you that I should have done today?
I don't think so. There's nothing comes to mind. I could go on all day. Actually, I'll just come up with my own question.
No, I knew we'd have a good show. You've been on before. Thanks for coming again, and I'm sure you'll come on another day as well. Before we say goodbye, I'm just going to go and let everybody know that next week, next Tuesday, I am doing my 200th live episode. Yay. Which is absolutely incredible. I can't believe it, and it's only because I have amazing guests like yourself, Simon. But next week I have got 3 LinkedIn legends: John Asperian, Gus Bandau, and Gillian Whitney, all coming to join me to celebrate my live shows. So isn't that amazing?
It is very much so. When I read about it earlier, 200, mentally I had to go, how many years is that? And then I had to try and divide it by 52, which obviously it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Because I do actually do 2 shows a week. But I haven't been doing 2 shows a week for as long. So I started back in July 21. And then November 21, I added my this show, which is for accountants and bookkeepers. And then the beginning of this year, I started putting it out as a podcast. So, yeah, it's amazing. It's all about consistency, isn't it? We didn't touch on your run from Land's End to John O'Groats.
That was a
again,
cycle. That was.
well, it doesn't matter what it is. It's still, and even driving is a nightmare. So no, that's incredible. But it's consistency. So it's a few miles every day, isn't it? And you build that up and look where you end up. So Simon, you've been an absolutely amazing guest again. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you to everybody for listening, and thank you, John, for trying to fix my issue with StreamYard and LinkedIn. Cheerio now, everybody. And we're going to go with a little bit of music. You get out what you put in.